going in with some steak mince. Into there we're going to go with some passata. Now I've got a 500 gram tub. I may not end up using all of it. It's probably about half of it at the minute. Also got one of those little stock pots, a Knorr beef stock pot. Right, well, hello and welcome to another episode of Bushcraft Dave. I've got my bolognese sauce, my lasagna sauce, simmering away. And yeah, I'm going to show you what I'm doing today. Today I am going to try, fingers crossed, to cook a lasagna on my Trangia stove. So I've got the basic sort of bolognese ragu type bit on the go. That's going to do its thing for a bit. I'm then going to cut down some lasagna sheets so that they are the same size as my Trangia pan. Now at the minute I'm using the Trangia 25 to cook everything up, and the Trangia 25 is going to be the main body of everything that I do today. But I'm using my Trangia 27 as well. My plan is, and we'll see this as we're putting it together, I'm going to put something in the bottom of the Trangia 25 pan, put some water in there to create kind of like a bain-marie, I think is the right terminology for it. Bain-marie. Mrs. Bushcraft Dave will put here what it's really called. And I'm going to kind of try and eventually create like an oven environment with the Trangia 27 sat inside it. So I'm going to have water inside the Trangia 25. The Trangia 27 is going to go inside it with a lid on, with the frying pan sat on top, with all the lasagna inside it. And then I'm going to put the lid on top of the Trangia 25 as well, and kind of just going to create a load of heat inside there, but it's not going to be direct heat. So I'm hoping that we won't end up with burn on the bottom of the lasagna, and we'll have time for cooking the lasagna sheets through. I am using fresh lasagna sheets, which is why I can cut them and why they only really need 6 minutes to cook. I'm also going to make a cheese sauce within it by thinning down, just a little bit, ever so slightly, thinning down some Philadelphia cheese so that we kind of get that cheese layer as well. You know how this is going to go. I'm trying something completely new. I've never seen anybody do a lasagna on a Trangia, ever. So this is either going to be genius, at which point I'll be lauded as a Trangia hero, or it's going to be a complete disaster, at which point I just put it as another thing as to why there's no videos out there of how to cook a lasagna. But we'll see how it goes. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to cut my lasagna sheets. Let's have a look and see how that goes. So I've got a couple of options here of cutting these lasagna sheets. There we go, I've got some fresh Morrison's lasagna sheets, so they're already flexible. So I'm either going to cut them. I've kind of got a bit of a guide on the Trangia chopping board already, where I've got this line that I believe is the size of the pan. Let me just check. So there we've got the chopping board, and this is the pan that I'm going to use from the Trangia 27. In fact, yeah, I reckon that if we look at that internal line, is probably good, so it'll definitely fit inside. So I'm going to get my lasagna sheets on, I'm going to cut round that line, and that should give me the sheets. The other option, of course, is I could get the lasagna sheet, put the pan upside down on top of it, and then just cut round that. But this top end is definitely bigger than the bottom end, just a little bit, but enough. So let's cut round, see how we get on. In fact, you know what's happened now? I cannot see what I'm doing. So I'm going to use the bottom of the pan, put it on, cut round it. All of this spare pasta is not going to be wasted. I'll just chop it up and stick it in some more passata and make like a pappardelle type pasta thing, so it's not going to get wasted. So I've got a circular piece of lasagna sheet that can go inside the Trangia pan and cook away. And I think I'm going to try and do 3 of these. There's my lasagna bolognese boiling away. It's definitely looking to be ready because it's starting to just catch on the bottom of the pan. But that gravy granule has made it such a dark colour. You can't tell it on the camera, but it's much darker than I was expecting. I'm going to take that off the heat because that is done. Penny, don't touch my lasagna. Don't even think about it, dog. 3rd and final sheet. That one's not bad, is it? That's all right. With the other Trangia 27 pan that's still just left lying around, I'm going to put in. So I've got myself a tub of Philadelphia Light, and the plan is I'll whack it all in with a little bit of milk, I think, just to thin it. Here we go. I mean, I'm in my back garden. I wouldn't normally bring a full pint of milk, would I? So I'm going to bit of trial and experiment here to see how it reacts to the milk. I don't want it too thin. It would be nice to be able to pour it onto the dish, but I don't want it ridiculously wet. It's not looking too bad. That was probably, once it's fully mixed up, it's probably about 2 tablespoons of milk, something like that, to about 250 grams of cream cheese. So you can see it's making it into a nice, much thinner, beat the lumps out of it, a thinner amount of cheese. Now I was going to put some nutmeg in there, which traditionally I would probably do if I was making a lasagna at home. However, it tastes all right, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to add some more grated cheese, simply to up the cheesiness of it, and that will all melt inside as well. I've got some cheese left over to stick on the top. Right, time to start constructing. Pan, a layer of the bolognese. I'm probably wanting to put about 1/3 in, I reckon. Might be a bit more than 1/3. See how it turns out. Then one of my lasagna sheets, which have already started to dry out. And then a bit of the cheese sauce. So the advantage of kind of cooking everything first is I'm not really worried about anything not being cooked through, especially because the lasagna sheets are fresh and they only really need 6 minutes. Right then, let's last layer of the cheese. Oh gosh. Okay, so far nothing that I've done is in any way particularly groundbreaking. Making a pasta sauce, like a bolognese sauce and all of that, nothing particularly crazy. It's this bit that could be interesting. Here's the plan. The pan from the Trangia 25 goes in, as does some water. Because, from what I understand, the pans do not like to be empty of stuff. So water goes in, we'll bring that to a boil. But what's also going on in, I've got in this case, it's a hedgehog pastry cutter. It's quite thin. It's probably about like 1.5 centimeters, maybe 1 centimeter. This is also going to go into the pan. Now the plan is that that will keep this pan just off of, so it'll mean that the metal is not touching metal directly on the bottom of the pan. It will be on the outside of the hedgehog, but it won't be just sat on the bottom of that metal pan. It'll keep it off. The water will start to tick away and be a nice heat. And then what we're going to have is this pan goes inside here, and the frying pan from the Trangia 27 goes on top. Now what you might be able to see is that the frying pan from the Trangia 27 is about the same size as the top of the Trangia 25. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll create a nice oven. In fact, what I might do is I might go that way, just so that we don't end up with any steam getting inside. Let's go with that. Cool. What I might also do is put this pan lid upside down on the top just to keep a bit more heat in. And I'm going to leave that to cook away for about, well, I think about 10 minutes. And then I'll come back to it. We'll see how it goes. Okay. Now then, I wasn't expecting the top to go crispy or anything like if I was putting it in a normal oven. But the cheese has melted. I know everything's cooked anyway, so I'm going to take a bit of a gamble on it. It's had about 10 minutes, something like that. So hopefully the pasta sheets have cooked through nicely as well. So let's take it out. I did have to fill the water up once more, just with the amount of steam that was coming off. Let's serve this up. I'm going to endeavour to try and serve it properly. This is a Bushcraft Day video. We know that this is going to end up everywhere. Let's have a go. So here we have it, the lasagna with the cheese sauce, bit of cheese on top. It's going to be interesting to see whether the pasta sheets have cooked through. My instinct tells me it's not going to have quite worked. Let's have some. Okay. I would say, oh, the dog's out getting excited by all the smells going off. Penny, there's nothing there for you, mate. Nope. The pasta sheets I don't think are fully cooked. They'll probably be officially al dente, which I'm sure many people really like, but for the purposes of me trying to cook this properly, it's not where I would expect. So, my lasagna, pasta sheets. Do you know what? The pasta might be under, and it would have only needed me to be a little bit more patient and allow that mixture to simmer in that bain-marie for a bit longer. But taste-wise, it's delicious. So whilst it might not be perfect, if you did want to do a lasagna out and about on a Trangia, it is possible. The only thing that's missing now is some garlic bread, and I haven't got a fire or anything to cook that over. But all in all, I'm super impressed. Thank you very much for joining me on another episode of Bushcraft Dave. I hope you found this cook interesting. Did it work? Did it not? I'll leave it up to you. But other than that, we'll see you in the next one. Are you disgusted that I put that much in? Right, hang on, I'll do a smaller portion for you. Is that better for you? Right, edit this. Edit these.